In this video, I'm building the biggest microwave burnout kiln that I have ever made. And this time I made it using soluble fiber blanket, not ceramic fiber. And then I put it to test by burning out this massive mold using a digital microwave and a cycle timer. And then I cast this mysterious object in iron. Mysterious object. Whoa, mysterious object, can you tell me what are you? Even I don't know what it is. Do you? I already have a microwave kiln making video where I go into more details and show you alternative ways how you can do it. I'll link that video in description. So what's different in this video is that we're gonna use bigger rings to make bigger kilns, and I'll also use a soluble fiber blanket instead of ceramic fiber. This one was provided me by Vitcas. I spoke about them in the previous video, so if you want to check them out, I'll also link them in the video description. So this is the kiln you have seen me use in many videos, and I use it for burning out molds. So there are 3 rings inside, and they're 100 millimeters in diameter. So this is the mold I have used in past to make these silicon carbide rings. But because I needed to make a bigger microwave kiln, I made new molds because I didn't have this one in different sizes. So this is a new and improved mold. This one is the same size. It's just a little bit better, you know. It holds together better because there's screws and bolts. So a little improvement, in other words. So this is the same, 100 millimeters, and here's the one that's a little bit bigger. Oh yeah, baby, 180 millimeters. And this is not even the biggest. There are even bigger ones that you can print.
I'm gonna make my rings using 2 different grits of silicon carbide. Obviously you don't have to do that, I'm just mixing grits because I have it. And then I added approximately 8% of sodium silicate. Sodium silicate I use is a 37% solution. I usually say that anything around that, 37 to 40, should give similar results. If you use other strength sodium silicate, then you might need to adjust the ratios. So after making the mold, I froze it. When you make your silicon carbide rings, don't fill the mold until the top. You don't want to cover the lid, otherwise it will be difficult to remove it. I also made a 100 mm mold, which is the same size I used in the old microwave kiln. After that I bake it in the oven at 130 degrees Celsius for around 15 to 20 minutes.
It's the next morning. These are the rings we made yesterday, and then I made one more last night and one more this morning. That's the cool thing, that it's so easy to make. It only takes you, I don't know, 10 minutes to make it. And then just stick it in the freezer and then the oven. Very easy. I'm excited that I finally will have something bigger, which will open possibilities for all those projects that I have on the list, but I couldn't do it because of the size limitation. There is one more issue though we need to solve. I realized that the microwave is still too small. This is a 42-liter microwave. Even though it's bigger, it's not really that big. The thing is that by the door it's more narrow than here. This kiln's walls are 2 sheets thick, or approximately 50 millimeters. There's no way I can make my big kiln 50 millimeters thick, because it's just not gonna fit inside of the microwave. Unless I would do it this way, but then it's gonna be very short. The only option I think now is use 1 layer insulation.
So that's what I did. I made a microwave kiln using only one layer of insulation, so 25 millimeters.
So yesterday I put together this, let's just say, test kiln. Comparing to the old microwave kiln, this is massive. So instead of casting something random, I'm gonna attempt to cast this. What is it? I have no idea. It's some kind of bracket. Back in March this year, a viewer contacted me and asked if I could cast something in iron. They were willing to pay. I replied that I normally don't cast things for other people, but I thought that maybe I can make an exception and make a video out of it. So I agreed. I said, I'm not gonna charge you. Let me try it. It might work, it might not. At least we'll have a video, right? He sent me the files over and I realized that there was no way I could do it in my microwave kiln. It was just too small. I tried to cast it without the kiln and that's the result. Let me clarify how I made this iron bracket without using a microwave kiln. I made a sand mold and one of the walls was covered with silicon carbide, and that's how I was able to heat it up in a microwave without using the kiln. I was able to burn it out, but obviously not very good. You have seen me making silicon carbide molds. They can be burned out very good without using a kiln, but silicon carbide is very expensive and I didn't even have the grit that I normally like to use to make molds. There are a few issues with the cast. The biggest one, that there is no hole where it's supposed to be. And the bottom is not very smooth because of the way it was printed. Originally I printed it like this. This is just a draft print, so not the best quality. But just to give you an idea, the supports, once removed, left the bottom scarred. Sure, I could attempt to do it again, but it just didn't feel like the right process. So I replied that, listen, it's not gonna work. I need a bigger microwave kiln and I don't have a big enough microwave at the moment, and there's no budget for me to buy another microwave. Anthony, the viewer, he said that he'll buy a microwave for me. I was not comfortable with this kind of arrangement because this is not a 50 euro microwave. It's 250 euros because it's 42 liters and there's not that many. So after thinking it over, I agreed. I didn't want him to pay for all of the microwave, even though he was willing to. So at the end, he covered approximately 60% of the cost, and the rest was funded by patrons and YouTube members. So thank you, Anthony. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, YouTube members. You know, this is how we can keep experimenting with your support. So this time, instead of printing it like this and having supports under everywhere, I cut right here. I printed it in 2 pieces. That way at least the bottom will be nice and smooth. And I hope I can just glue it.
So the glue is no other than super glue. And I also covered the joint with some wax.
Finally, I can use something a little bit bigger, so 120 millimeter mold. With molds this size, I'll need to stock up on sodium silicate. Luckily in Spain it's quite cheap.
To make sure the hole casts properly, I packed it with sand before covering the rest of the mold. And then I froze it.
So I put it inside the old microwave for now, just to cure it. So I'm just gonna run the microwave on default setting using a cycle timer, and I turn the power up gradually. Now, sometimes I just put the mold directly into the kiln, but because this mold is very big, there will be quite a lot of moisture, and that moisture can make your ceramic fiber wet, and that means it will heat up. By drying the mold, by curing the sodium silicate, I will also evaporate some of the water.
This microwave's bottom, or originally side, is not flat, so for now I just use the tile covered with some aluminum foil. When working with ceramic fiber, you always want to wear a respirator. In this case it's a soluble fiber blanket, so it's much better and not as bad for your health. That said, it's still preferable to wear a respirator, I just forgot.
For those who haven't seen the video on Patreon or YouTube's member page, you're probably wondering how am I planning to control this digital microwave with a cycle timer. The issue with digital microwaves is that when you cut the power and then resume it, the microwave will not keep running, where the analog one will. Well, the solution is quite simple, though it will not work with all the microwaves. If we hold the button, the start button, while we turn on the power, the microwave turns on, and that's all we need. So we can take a 3D printed tool, for example, or do it other way. This one I shared on Patreon as well. And we can just keep the button pressed. You can adjust height. And now the microwave is working and you can control it with the cycle timer. The downside in this case that I'm only limited to 30 seconds, which is fine. I just need to adjust my cycle.
I accidentally set my cycle timer wrong. Instead of the microwave staying off for 3 minutes, it was off for 3 seconds. In other words, I started burnout super aggressively.
Well, the good thing is that we did burn out the mold. The mold reached over 400 degrees Celsius, which in my experience with these sand molds and PLA, translucent PLA prints, it's enough, as long as you hold that temperature for a while. The Captain tape also is showing no issues whatsoever, because the outside of the chamber didn't get that hot. It was hot. You do need gloves to handle the chamber. What was the temperature? I forgot, like 150 maybe it reached, or 160 degrees Celsius, but there was still plenty of headroom. Headspace? Headroom? You know what I mean. The bad thing is that, yeah, we need more insulation. You can definitely tell that it's not enough. I really want to add more insulation, but for now, I guess it's not gonna happen. That will be a project for the future. At least I have a tool that I can use to do some of these projects that I always wanted to do, and we'll figure it out as we go. But now, let's try to cast it and see how it turns out.
Because the microwave was off for 3 seconds instead of minutes, the burnout was so aggressive that the mold cracked, or there was a blowout. For that reason I wrapped it in aluminum foil, just in case.
One day I was at my mother's in-law house and I just took my tools and I spent some time cutting some weight plates that I already had, by the way. I didn't buy them.
Once the iron had solidified, I cut off the aluminum foil tape, because otherwise the adhesive will start smoking.
Then I used my Bluetooth or wireless hammer to break the mold without touching it. I'll show you how it works. First you turn it on. The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Oh, the battery died. I'll need to use it manually. So this is the way it turned out. Not bad. I did not cut the sprue off completely, I didn't want to risk messing it up, and also it's not sanded, so it needs to be cleaned up. I just used some wire brush for cleaning, that's all.
I was pretty happy with the way the bracket turned out. It was not a perfect cast, but I think it came out pretty nice. Since I needed to ship it over, I thought I might as well make a second bracket just in case. But I wasn't completely happy with my microwave kiln. Sure, I could burn out those big molds, but one layer insulation, yeah, not ideal. So I slept on it and I found a solution. I asked myself, how often will I need molds that are this big or bigger? I already have this kiln that I can use to burn out smaller molds, and if I ever need to go bigger than this, well, that other kiln will work just fine. So what if I make something in between?
So I thought if I make a 130mm ring, I should be able to make a kiln with double insulation. So that's what I did. And by the way, you don't have to bake your rings one by one. You can just put them back in the freezer and bake them all together. A few seconds on sandpaper will make them nice and smooth. Just making sure it fits.
I used to drill a hole that would hold this tray. It worked, but even better way in my opinion, the way I do it now is use these rings. These are made from sand, though you can make it from different materials. So this is how we're gonna make our sand tray holder. So we have 3D printed molds. This is 60mm, and this one, it comes in different sizes. This one is actually just a sand mold that I shared before. It's just shorter, so if you already have printed sand molds, you can just use them instead of this one.
In this case you could even skip the freezing. I have tried it and you can actually remove the plastic without freezing the sand first. But freezing, in my opinion, is easier. You can do the microwave curing or just stick it in an air fryer.
To make a foil tray, we're gonna use another 3D printed tool. So we just take a piece of kitchen foil, wrap it around. This goes on top. Squeeze. And just remove the excess. In another video I said that I sometimes folded these edges just in case it could cause problems with arcing, but I stopped doing it because I just haven't experienced any arcing whatsoever. If there's some tooth sticking out a lot, I might just fold it a little bit, but other than that, I just leave it as it is.
This time, after curing the mold in the microwave, I microwaved it for a little bit more to soften the plastic. That way I can pull it out and the rest of the plastic will just drip inside of the tray. Otherwise, it would be a mess because it was bigger than the tray. And here's a quick demo of the cycle timer controlling the digital microwave.
And by the way, if you don't have an analog microwave, or this one doesn't work with your digital microwave, some viewers have reported that they just microwave their molds on a different setting. So that's another option. Obviously, you'll need to do some trial and error, but with sand molds, especially with sand molds, it can be done easily because sand molds, they can be abused. You can do the burnouts quickly, they're quite strong, and you don't have to ramp up that temperature as gradually as you would do with your investment or plaster molds. So it's definitely something that you can try out. Using a cycle timer gives you more control. You don't have to babysit your microwave as much. As I have showed in my other videos, I can pretty much burn out my molds automatically or almost automatically depending on the mold and the size. There are molds, for example, that I can burn out by using only one cycle, for example 1/6 cycle, and if I don't want to remove the plastic, the aluminum tray and flip the mold around, I can just keep it in a kiln and eventually it will burn out and the temperature will rise. So by the end of the day, it's all about trial and error, taking notes and repeating whatever works. I definitely recommend getting one of these thermometers. It will make your life easier as you figure things out. Links in description, wink wink.
So just like before, I didn't do any sanding, just a wire brush. So again, it might not be perfect, but I think it came out pretty nice. And that part I was touching there, it's just from a 3D print, it's not a casting defect. I should have covered it with wax, but I somehow missed it. That's the downside of using translucent filament.
I still don't know what it is. I asked Anthony not to tell me. All I know that he says it's a bracket, and he also said that he's bringing to life a 130-year-old object. He was also saying something about that he'll need to make some kind of lens, though I'm not sure, was he talking about this bracket or was the lens a part of something else? It does look like something could sit on top, I don't know. I'm not sure. It does look like this one would go, like it would sit on some kind of stand maybe. Honestly, I have no idea. What do you think? What could it be? Later he'll jump into comments and reveal what it is. Or if not him, then I'll do it myself. One way or the other we'll find out what it's for. I have used this large microwave kiln to burn out 4 big molds, each weighing approximately 2.5 kilos. Because the molds were so heavy, the fiber blanket did sink in a little bit and the kiln was cracked, which was expected. I could fix it, but for now I'm just gonna leave it as it is. In the future I might add another layer of kiln wash, I might sand it again. We'll see. So what do I think about soluble fiber blanket for making burnout kilns? Well, I think it works very good and I will keep using it.